Here's 10 ways you can achieve cyber essentials with having legacy systems. Many businesses have to run legacy systems. So if you've got machines that are end of life, maybe they're Microsoft XP, Microsoft Windows 7, 8 and 10. But how do you still achieve good security measures and cyber essentials with having older machines mixed in with up-to-date Windows 11 machines? So here's our 10 steps that you need to follow to make sure that you will pass cyber essentials using those older platforms. So the first step is you need to have an up-to-date asset register, where essentially you will show exactly which machines you've got, which are end of life and which are up to date. The second element is looking at how are you going to separate the legacy machines from all the rest. This doesn't physically mean you need to pick them up and move them, but it's just via the network. How are you going to ring fence the different machines? And this is where it's really important that you're able to clearly show how they are ring fenced and how do you plan on ring fencing them. The third element is segmenting the network. You may have one physical network, but you need to segment it internally using things like firewalls and switches. Once it's segmented, you then want to make sure that those machines, even though the main operating system is end of life, that they are as patched as much as they can be. Because there's different types of patching. You've got the main operating system, you've then got patches on things like whether it's Microsoft 365, whether it's third-party apps, things like Adobe, but also your security suite. And usually most security suites will still be running up to date. So you need to make sure that those machines are as up to date as they can be, rather than exactly up to date, which the standard machines as opposed to the legacy ones will be. The next area is look at compensating for the potential breaches. So this means that you really need to look at all of the different security that you can build around those machines. This means things like making sure that you've got advanced firewalls, you've got managed switches, which means you can physically control the ports for each machine. As opposed to a normal switch that's just wide open and then you're always pushing back the control, you need to really make sure that you've got the firewall side of the outside world, then the actual ports are fully managed so that you can lock each port down, then you've got the controls on the actual device itself. So you've got lots of different fail safes, lots of different walls that people will have to jump over or try and go around. Then we look at minimizing what you're actually using the machine for. You just want those machines for the absolute reason that you have to keep them online. An example might be that you've got a main machine that is connected to the network and it needs to have that connection so that you can push jobs to it. But then if that device is older, we need to strip out anything that it doesn't need to be used for. So why do you need Office applications, for example, on a machine that is purely just going to be pushing jobs to a CNC machine? So you need to really strip it out and make sure you're locking down as much as possible. Then you need to look at boundary controls and access controls. So making sure that that machine has a limited vulnerability, but also then who can actually access that machine. You don't want anyone on the network to be able to access the machine. You really need to restrict so that only the absolute minimum number of people can access that machine or push files and folders to and from that machine. You really need to limit it. You do not want it open and available on the network. The next element is endpoint protection and malware protection. This can be a standalone product so that it's not actually to do with the age of the machine, but make sure that that is always being fully updated. Now this is where the configuration can be difficult, because if you don't have internet or you're restricting internet onto that device, then you just need to be careful on what can and can't access the outside world. And as we get to step 9, you need to make sure that you fully document and evidence exactly everything that you've done for that individual machine. This is the only way that you're going to pass Cyber Essentials, but you need to show what you have done and how you've configured it and the barriers that you've done against the rest of the main open network. So it's really important that you fully document everything and then make sure that that documentation is kept up to date. it's very easy for a machine to be looked at, restricted, but then maybe 6 or 12 months down the line, those changes can then be neglected. So you need to make sure that the machine is constantly being checked and that you're updating your asset register. And then the final step is to plan for replacement. Using machines that are end of life are a real security warning, not just as getting your cyber essentials, but also for the business as a whole. So you need to make sure that you're only doing it as an absolute must, but you still need to be planning. So just make sure you keep an eye on the software and the machinery that you're using these machines with, and then when there potentially is an update available, it's always worthwhile to look at those updates and see if you can feasibly do it. So we hope you found that interesting. Obviously, a lot of ring fencing and really segmenting networks can be quite advanced. So if you do need any help with that, or maybe you're just unsure about your overall cybersecurity, remember the main rule with cybersecurity is that it's only as good as its weakest link. So it's no good having 20 machines that are all perfectly updated and really secure if you've got 1 or 2 that are on the network that are end of life. So you just need to make sure that you get the configuration absolutely right. So if you're unsure or you need some help, we're offering a free cybersecurity review. So please click on the link. We'd love to discuss how Syn-Star can start helping your business become more cyber secure and pass cyber essentials.